Well, it's the first week of Summer Split of the LCS with coverage brought to you by Alienware. I'm joined right now by Pobelter from CLG to discuss how things are going over there. So, Pobelter, I know a tough loss against Team Liquid just now. I appreciate you sitting down to do the interview with me. What has been going on at CLG during the offseason? How have you guys been preparing for Summer Split?
Well, we started practice pretty early in the off season because we wanted to have a stronger start to the split because we didn't do well last split. Unfortunately, the effort hasn't really paid off so far. We lost our first two matches of the split, so that's a bit disappointing.
When you say you started early, how long have you guys been practicing?
I think it's been 5 or 6 weeks that we started, and I think most teams started scrimming like 2 weeks ago.
Was it tough to start so early? Because I mean, as you said, like a lot of other teams weren't scrimming, so I don't know how you. It's I assume much harder to practice when you don't have access to like the top LCS teams practice.
Um, I mean, I think it's to an extent important that your scrim opponents are really strong, but I mean, I think like scrimming a team that is even to you or worse than you, as long as they're not like significantly worse and you're just rolling over them, I think it still makes for excellent practice. So at the start, we were scrimming mainly. There were a couple other teams that had also decided to start scrimming that early, like IMT and GGS, and we were playing some academy teams too, and I think it was good practice.
Yeah, I've talked to a lot of the players who feel like right now a lot of these games are just going to be decided by who started to figure out the meta, and like there's a lot of debate over Viego and that type of thing. So, what do you think of the meta right now and of the new champions that have been introduced?
Um, well, coming into this week, we were pretty successful against both of those champs in scrims throughout the past few weeks. So we felt pretty confident leaving things open for our first match. In that match, Gwen ended up being a really big problem. Definitely, it was tougher to handle than it was in our practice games. So that was a bit unexpected. I think we underrated her a bit, and I think she's sort of the champ that tends to be better on stage because her scaling is really strong. So I think we were wrong about that. But Viego, still not really sold on him. He seems like okay at least, but I don't know if he's like really amazing because he just is pretty weak early, I think, in lane at least. His laning, I don't really think he's going to get the push or the priority in most matchups. And it seems like he doesn't really tank very well, and he doesn't really deal damage very well either. But if you get like the reset, then you pop off. So he seems okay at least. So not
Yeah,
too sure.
is the reset situation the reason why? Because I can't remember the last time where I've a champion has been introduced to pro play, and when I just hear so many wildly different opinions. Like some people are like, "Oh my god, Viego's OP," and then other people I talk to are like, Viego's whatever." And you see it where like you've got people that are like first picking or banning it, and other people that are like, whatever, we could deal with this." So why is it that there seems to be such a different opinion on this champion?
Yeah, it's a really polarizing pick for sure. Um, I don't know. I think it's just the way game is, honestly. Like in the game, I feel like you take a lot of skirmishes, like even fights, and then whoever plays better or whoever has the better chance will win. And it wasn't really like that in League a lot of the time. Like a lot of the time, it was like I have the prio. Now I'm gonna dive bot 4v2, and they have no counterplay. Like I feel like that was the really popular game flow we saw a lot of the time, especially in like Azir meta, control mage meta. But right now, it seems a lot like there's really scrappy champs in every role, especially in mid and top. There's like Lee Sin, Gwen, Viego, all these really skirmish heavy champs. Prio to an extent doesn't matter as much as like the fight itself. If you're fighting around like Scuttle, maybe the enemy mid is Prio, but I can drop a PCS, go late, and take a 4v4. That like kind of flips the game completely because we win the fight even though I lost a PCS. That sort of game pattern seems a lot more common than how it did in the past.
Gotcha. Okay, so it's just sort of the state of the game, as it were. Okay. Uh, Wanted to get your opinion on a couple different things that have popped up in the past couple of weeks as discussion. So one, did you get a chance to watch Doublelift's video about the ping in North America? Like he did that video about a week or so ago.
Not really, but from what I understand, he was wondering why Like, why can't NA have server, like the game server being based on the geolocation of the majority of the players in the game, which I
Yeah.
think is really sensible. I mean, I'm completely agree with that. I know there's the functionality for that in Valorant. I'm pretty sure I was like playing TFT and I had like 30 ping or something, and I was like, huh, that's like way less than what I get in solo queue. So I feel like if Riot wanted to enough, they could implement that. For me as a pro player who likes to play on lower ping and solo queue, that would be excellent, and it wouldn't really harm the quality of players in general. Like I can only see it being a positive for most people because it would assign the server based on the majority of the players in the game. I'd actually talked to a Rioter about this once, like a year ago. Blastoise, who doesn't work there anymore, and I don't remember exactly what he said. So you know, maybe that was kind of useless to bring up. But
Yeah, well,
he
I'm
had
glad you
some
talked to
reason
somebody
for
about
it.
it. Very,
Yeah,
very informative information you brought to us. No,
yeah.
but yeah, I mean, that's been one of the things that I've been trying to kind of hunt down an answer to why they can't do this, and so I'm just curious because obviously it seems like it would really benefit the region given how much people talk about the ping.
Yeah,
Um,
and I think it's a unique thing too because just because the United States is like so much bigger than a lot of the other regions. Like China has localized servers depending on where you are. There's like so many, I think tens of different servers. That is, just based on whatever region you are. Of course, the United States isn't nearly as big as China, but it feels a bit strange that there's like one server for all of South Korea, which in itself is less than half the size of California. And the United States, which I don't know how many Californias could fit inside the United States, but we only have one server too.
yeah,
So it makes sense to make a solution, I think, for that.
yeah.
And maybe that solution is not a bunch of servers the way that China has, probably because the player base is not as big, but it is like a unique problem that maybe needs a unique solution, like um, placing the game server, as Double said.
Okay, so the next thing that came up was making a public database of all the replays. I don't know if you have much of an opinion on that, if you think you'd like to see it or maybe you wouldn't, but doing something like that, it was a mythy conversation that some of the coaches hopped on board with.
Yeah, I think they were saying it's annoying when you're watching a replay and then it's like for broadcast, so it'll cut to
Yeah, like
a
VODs, you can't see
play
all
that
the
was
stuff that
made.
you could see in a replay. Yeah.
Yeah, for me, I don't really feel as strongly about that. And we have ProView now too, so I think you could just watch the ProView videos now if you want to see the exact movement of that team in the game. I'm sure it would be like slightly beneficial for coaches to see that like 30, 45 seconds of time, which isn't that important for the fans probably, but is important for seeing how the enemy team is setting up or playing in those 30 to 45 seconds of time where they cut to a replay.
Yeah. Well, I think also it's about getting access to what is happening in international regions. Like the idea of like, oh, you could watch the replay and study the replay from like a top LPL match, or at MSI where only Cloud9 had access to those replays and Cloud9 only had access to the ones that they participated in. So I think that's how a lot of this sparked too, is like, hey, let us watch MSI finals replays, for instance.
Like, what do you mean by that? Like the
So
first person view?
yeah, well, to get the replay files, like the .raffle files or
Oh, the
whatever.
raw file. Okay.
Yes. They don't want to get
Yeah,
the VODs. They want to get the ability to like
I
open it up in the
see.
client
The
and like
file
look
itself.
around. Yeah.
And then you can click around in it and okay, so
Yes.
like you're spectating it. Oh yeah, that seems like a great idea, honestly. I don't know if the League client can support that, but that sounds like a great idea. One thing I was curious about as a pro is apparently China has a lot of first person VODs that we Westerners are not able to access. So you need to like go on one of those Chinese sites like Douyu or Bilibili, and like hopefully someone who speaks Chinese and can like dig up these first person VODs
Yeah.
for you. And like they even have access to LCK on these Chinese sites. So I'm not really sure where it's coming from because ProView was disabled for us throughout all of last year when the Corona thing happened. Um, so yeah, not really sure how they can have that, but it would be nice if we had access to that too.
Yeah. Well, is there anything that you want to say to any of the fans out there?
Well, I guess we didn't really talk about that. the matches from the weekend that much, but
There's just a lot to talk about. But if there's anything you wanted to comment on.
yeah, I mean, definitely sucks to have a poor start after a poor spring split, but um, just gonna try and stay mentally strong. We still have many games ahead of us, and I think if we just take each challenge one day at a time, I think we can still bounce back this season. I'm still feeling pretty positive about myself, my play, the potential of the team. So, don't lose faith.
Very good.
That's pretty much it.
Thank you so much, Pobelter, for the interview. For everyone else, you can check out the rest of my coverage of all things LCS right here on my YouTube channel. We're officially back at the LCS. I mean, I'm still here in my home because we're not ready yet for me to unleash the power of my in-person interviews, but hopefully soon. We'll see. Meanwhile, we got Alienware over there doing some really cool stuff. Good in Gaming. It's their new initiative to help people compete, grow, learn, and get equipped in the esports industry. They've got tournaments. They've got mentorships. They've got scholarships. What else can I end with? What else rhymes? I don't know. Whatever. Anyway, they've got all this stuff. You can go over to alienware.com/goodingaming to learn about what they're doing. It's awesome to see them do this in partnership with Team Liquid. And there's a link in the description below if you want to go take a look at some of their new products, including their new, completely brand new line of notebooks, super thin, beautiful, beautiful computers to game on. Go check them out. Link in the description below.